Hello, welcome to Foster Recap. Today I'm going to explain 2007 thriller movie called Zodiac. Spoiler alert, watch out. Movie starts in July 4, 1969. Whole city is in celebrating Neil Armstrong become first man to step on moon. A woman named Dolene Ferrin came to Mike Mago house to pick up him. Both later travel to Lover's Lane in Vallejo, California. There they both stop their car and having conversation. Then a strange car appear behind them. An unknown man appear and shot them with handgun. Only Mike survives. 1 month later in San Francisco. We are introduced to Robert Graysmith, a cartoonist nervously entering into the San Francisco Chronicle office. There he passed by Ironman Paul Avery. Later in receptionist received encrypted letters written by the killer calling himself Zodiac. He threatens to kill a dozen people unless a coded message containing his identity is published in newspaper. Newspaper management set up a meeting to discuss whether to publish the message or not. Finally they decide to publish it in an attempt of anyone can crack the code and reveal killer identity. But Robert Graysmith guesses it is not killer's identity. All others not take him seriously. Next the newspaper published the letter. A science teacher deciphers all of the code except ending. Later Paul Avery questions Robert how did he guess the code is not killer identity, then Robert reply he is interested in solving codes from childhood. Few months later in September, two couple named Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard are enjoying in Lake Berryessa. Their killer came and threatens them with a handgun. Brian request killer they will cooperate with him and request leave them alive. Killer tied them both and take their car keys and stabs them. Brian survived, but Cecilia dies 2 days later. Some days later San Francisco Chronicle office received another letter admitting the Lake Berryessa murder is committed by him, and he sent another coded letter and asked them to publish it. At the office, Avery makes fun of Graysmith before they discuss the coded letters. Graysmith interprets the letter, which Avery finds helpful, and he begins sharing information. One of Graysmith's insights about the letters is that Zodiac's reference to man as the most dangerous animal of them all is a reference to the film The Most Dangerous Game, which features the villainous Count Zerorf, a man who hunts live human prey. 2 weeks later the killer shot a taxi driver. 2 kids witness it and call to police. Then we are introduced to Hulk. Detective Dave Tusky. He investigate about the incident. The next day Zodiac killer mails pieces of Stein's blood-stained shirt to the Chronicle along with a taunting letter. Later Dave arrived there with his partner Bill Armstrong to office to inquire. In letter the Zodiac mentions he will call a famous talk show in weekend. As he said he called to Melvin Belly show. There a strange man with shaky and unclear voice claimed himself as Zodiac. Melvin asked him can he give a less ominous name. He say there can call him Sam. Melvin suggest is he need a medical care. He reply he's having a headache. Melvin ask him he will help. And he hang up the phone to prevent not to track him. Melvin assure him that they're not tracking his call. And he call again and he told he don't want to go to gas chambers with chaotic voice. He ask he need help and some strange screams are heard. And he angrily saying he will kill a kid. Melvin ask him they need to talk and ask him to come to St. Mary's Church. But he refused and counter him to meet at St. Vincent at 10:30 and hang up the phone. Next day Melvin went to meet him, but all press and police are joined him. Later Dave showed the recording to Brian Hartnell the victim for confirmation, but Brian denies and say the killer who attack him has deeper voice. Some weeks later killer send another letter to Chronicle office. He says he's making a bomb and he will attack a school bus and send a code message to publish. Paul Avery and Robert Graysmith meet at a bar. There Paul asks Robert how he's able to solve the codes. He is reading books from library to solve code. They both have nice time. In December killer send a letter to Melvin for help and attached a cloth with bloodstained. A lonely woman is traveling in a highway. Suddenly a strange car behind her signals her to stop. She stopped her car. She has a baby with her. A man whose face is behind shadow came to warn her as her car tire is loose. And he offer her he can repair if she agrees. He repair it and went out. The woman take deep breath and pamper her baby. She started her car. After some distance her car is breakdown. She get out and checks. Later man who repaired the car came back and offer her a lift to gas station. Left with no choice she agree. She bring her child out. The man don't know that she have a child with her. Later they are traveling. The man pass gas station without stopping. The lady suspects and ask him. He reply angrily the gas station is close. Then to avoid fear she start to smoking. The man advised her to do not smoke, it is bad for baby. And he informed her he will throw her baby out of window before killing her. Then screen fades out. A woman in the middle of the road seeking for help and stopping a truck, and it's the same woman previous with killer. It's thankfully the woman and the baby both are safe. Later a couple of letters are received by San Francisco Chronicle office. So many claims themselves Zodiac and posting letter. Paul Avery and Robert went to article's room. There Paul shows some evidence of a watch company advertisement named Zodiac. It has same symbol the killer using, and Paul claims that Zodiac wants attention of press, so he sending letter is didn't kill 13 people. His claims on other people mutters. Later in office Paul and Robert are having casual conversation while watching TV. Paul checking his mail, suddenly he opened the letter from killer Zodiac threatening him on his article. Detective Dave came to office for investigate. He advised him to be careful. Paul asked Dave a gun for protection. Paul and Robert are at gun range there. He's practicing shooting. Robert reading headlines in mentions all reports are wearing badges which say I'm not Paul Avery. Even Paul himself wearing it. Yeah, it's a clever move, Iron Man. Paul say he's going to meet someone in Riverside and ask Robert to join him, but Robert denies it because he had a date. Later Robert meet Melanie. He apologized her for late. She replies it's okay and ask why he was late. For that he replied he's in gun wronger in a discussion for Zodiac. And ask her about where is Riverside. For that she said near LA. Robert gets suspicious and rushes to call Paul as thinking it's a trap. Parallelly Paul at Riverside his look for the guy he came to meet. Robert and Melanie are waiting for Paul's phone. Later Paul called Robert and he informed he had unbelievable information. On TV Paul giving an interview that he got the information of killer Zodiac first victim in 1966 murder. That became a headache for Dave. Later Dave and some office are going to LA for investigation. Their Paul interrupt them, but Dave don't interesting to talk to him. Dave and other officers are went to Riverside PS for files of murderies in exchange of there a victim named Sherry Jo Bates, attender at Riverside Community College, killed by stabbing on October 30, 1966. Later a post letters are received by her family members resembles like Zodiac letter. With that information Dave and other officers are went to investigation there. They met several people. Some claims themselves as Zodiac, other are accusing other as Zodiac. One man accuses a friend from fishing. Name Arthur Lee Allen in 1966. He is fired from his work. In that anger he said he will kill people and bomb the school bus. Exactly same thing said in Zodiac letter, and he referred cops as pigs. Later Dave and other went to investigate Allen. There in investigation he start revealing then untold information from his friend, and he wears a Zodiac company watch. It raises suspicious toward him. He inquiries his family members and they also suspects him. He is ambidextrous too. Dave is very confident about him being Zodiac. He start collecting information. Paul Avery now become drunker and sleeping in cars. Robert wakes him and inform manager calling him. Paul Avery meet the manager. Their manager is accusing him for missing his newspaper name and ask him to stop. But Paul Avery quits the job like a boss and shuts the door at manager's face. 11 months later Dave got the search warrant, so he went to Lee Allen house. He's not in house, so they break into the house. Inside the house Dave found bunch of squirrels, shotgun and cloths scattered around. It's looking like my friend's room. If have a friend whose room look like this, mention below the comments. Back to story. Later Allen came there. Police welcome him and take into custody. Dave is eagerly waiting for confirmation of Allen as killer, but to his surprise it's revealed that Allen is not the guy. Frustrated Dave walked out from office. Later Dave and Robert Graysmith are in movies theater watching a Hollywood movie Dirty Harry. Dave cannot sit in theater because movie loosely connect to Zodiac murders. Robert notices him. After climax Robert quickly went to Dave and say him the climax and introduce himself. Then time jump to 4 years. Robert Graysmith is in office. He noticed a new recruited is filling Paul Avery position. Robert went and introduced himself. In other hand Dave work partner Bill Armstrong is transferred. That's make Dave lonely. Robert looking into his collection of articles on Zodiac, and he noticed most of the articles written by Paul Avery. He visited Paul, who is completely become alcoholic and he is in low standards of living. Like Thor in Endgame. Robert advised him he should write a book based on Zodiac. Paul didn't agree to that. He don't want more trouble in his alcoholic life. Then he told Robert that he's the right one to start book. Two of them have a conversation. Later Paul break up with Robert. Later Robert take Paul Avery seriously and decide to write a book. Later he meet Dave in PS and offer him a lunch. In lunch he ask about Zodiac, for that Dave replies he's not discussing that case with reporters. Robert claims he's not a reporter, he's a cartoonist. But Dave denies to share information, but impressed with Robert's dedication he decides to help and say him to meet Ken Narlow in Napa. He went there and research all the case files. There Robert found an useful information due to the rule of not note down anything he remembers it and quickly write it down in a paper. Later he meet Dave and inform him killer Zodiac know Darlene earlier, so he decided to meet Darlene's sister, but Dave insists him to meet Melvin Belly. Robert went to meet Melvin, but he is busy in his meeting. Meanwhile Melvin assistant accompanies him and ask about him. He said he's writing book about Zodiac. She replies she remembers when Zodiac called and informed her he have to kill today, because it is his birthday. Robert quickly called to Dave and ask who interrogate Melvin assistants. Later he meet Mel Nikolai. There he advises Robert to focus on evidence. They have bunch of suspects but not evidence. Later in home Robert and his wife is in an argument about Robert article in paper. His wife scared because there no Zodiac reads Chronicle. Meanwhile Robert receive a phone call by an anonymous man. He offer him he can tell about Zodiac and ask him to meet Bob Vaughn, and he also say Zodiac name is Rick Marshall. He is obsessed with movies. Next Robert went to collect Rick Marshall handwriting samples. That day he meet a handwriting expert. He suggested bring more samples. He say he never see that much close samples. Next day after 51 months Zodiac send another letter, this time threatening Dave. Robert call Dave but he is so busy. Later Robert with the help of his children adjusting the timeline of murders, one of his children show him unsolved Zodiac code. Then Roberts take it and cracked it and give an interview in TV. Paul Avery seeing it in and fell proud. But the interview make an argument between Robert and his wife. It result she left him. Later Robert meet Bob Vaughn. He invited him to his home. There Robert ask him about Rick Marshall handwritten posters. Then to Robert's surprise to hear that Bob Vaughn was the one who write the posters, not Rick Marshall. Robert overcome by fear and try to escape, but Bob invite him to basement. And Robert went. That Bob Vaughn showed the original poster with his handwriting. Robert rushed to go out but the door is locked. Then Bob came and opened the door for him with a freaking smile. Next day Robert meet Linda in prison. She is Darlene's sister. She informed her one person meet her sister always and force her to love. But Darlene is in love with Mike. Robert asked did he remembers his name, which Linda say Lee. Later Robert see into Lee Allen information there. His birthday mentioned is the 18th of December, the same date Zodiac phoned Melvin assistant and said about its killing on his birthday. Later he meet Dave and share an information. Dave say he already interrogate by them but he left with no evidence. Robert next day meet Lee. They both look at each other's. Then later Robert left. A time jump to 2003. New detective named George Bewart interrogating Zodiac case with the help of Zodiac book written by Robert Graysmith. It's become bestsellers book. He meet Mike, the first survivor. He show him some suspects photos. Mike not sure first, but after seeing Lee Allen photo he confirmed he's the one who attack. Then screen fades and shows. With the help of following Mike Mago's identification of Arthur Lee Allen, authorities scheduled a meeting to discuss charging him with the murders. Allen suffered a fatal heart attack before this meeting could take place. Inspector David Tusky retired from the San Francisco Police Department in 1989. He was cleared of all charges that he wrote the 1978 Zodiac letter. Paul Avery passed away on December 10, 2000 of pulmonary emphysema. He was 66. His ashes were scattered by his family in San Francisco Bay. Robert Graysmith lives in San Francisco and enjoys a healthy relationship with his children. He claims he has not received a single anonymous call since Allen's death. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for our efforts.